So I don't know if there's anything that I could say at this point that's going to be any better than what we've already heard today. Between joys and sorrows and our thunderstorm, our singing together and our hearing that beautiful song, I don't have a whole lot to add. So I'm actually, in front of your face, going to skip to the middle of my sermon. The first part was all set up. I think we're set up. We're talking about trust and community, basically. That's the first 3 pages. Trust and community. And what I wanted to do was sort of investigate how we form that trust using somebody who's done a lot of research into the field of trust, the sociologist Brené Brown. You may be familiar with her acronym BRAVING. And actually at this point, I'd like you to take out your journals, and if you don't have a journal, raise your hand. I'm going to have Tom bring you one. So if you don't have a journal, raise your hand. If you do have a journal, I would invite you to vertically, on a clean page, vertically on the left-hand margin there, write the word BRAVING, BRAVING, on one letter on each line. It's convenient that I'm skipping the first 3 pages. The first letter stands for boundaries. So I want to respect your time. We've committed to doing this in 1 hour and 15 minutes, and with a fudge factor of a couple minutes or so, we're going to get you out of here on time. That's a respect for boundaries. Boundaries means that I respect your boundaries and you respect mine, and when we're not clear about what's okay and not okay, we ask. Also, that we're willing to say no. The second letter, R, is for reliability. This means that you do what you'll say you'll do. It means staying aware of your competencies and limitations so that you don't overpromise and are able to deliver on commitments and balance priorities. So you might want to write just a little note, B, BRAVING, boundaries, then reliability. A is for accountability. You own your mistakes, apologize, and make amends. V is for what Brené calls the vault, V-A-U-L-T, vault. You don't share information or experiences that are not yours to share. This is about keeping confidences, and that you're not sharing with me any information about other people that should be confidential. I is for integrity. Brené describes this as choosing courage over comfort. Choosing what's right over what is fun, fast, or easy. And that you choose to practice your values rather than simply professing them. N is for non-judgment. This means that you can ask for what you need and I can ask for what I need, and we can talk about how we feel without judgment. And G is for generosity. You extend the most generous interpretation possible to the intentions, words, and actions in others. So BRAVING is sort of a recipe for the creation of trust and community. And I want to go back through these again, and we'll come back to your journals in just a moment. I want to go through these again, and this time thinking about how we do with them as a community. And maybe you can reflect a little bit about how you do with them as a member of this community. To me, the first 2 appear as a pair. Boundaries and reliability. They're related to the point of inextricability, I believe. Boundaries and reliability include not only doing what you say you're going to do, but not doing what you say you're not going to do. That's a part of healthy boundaries. Not taking on too much, not being an overactor. And social systems, especially ones of our size, are often most challenged by these twin elements of trust. It's easy for us to feel anxious and step into a role even when we're already overcommitted. The system seems to want that, but I promise you that we will be healthier with healthier boundaries. Accountability, you own your mistakes, apologize and make amends. I feel like this community is really good at that. This community is really good at that. And hopefully it's not because we've had so much practice at making mistakes. But I've seen this happen. I've done this myself. And it's really refreshing and regenerative when a mistake is made and you have the perspective to realize it, to apologize, and make amends. That's a beautiful part of being in community. We talked a little bit about that last week, how the bone that's broken heals stronger. Not that we want to go around breaking bones, but that when a bone is broken, when we make a mistake, that in this community that we have covenanted to be a part of, that we have the opportunity to hang in, own up, apologize, and make amends. Vault. We don't share information or experiences that are not ours to share. This is about a confidentiality. And again, I think that this community does a really good job here. In fact, direct communication is explicit in our covenant, and to me, that's a kind of vault keeping and confidence keeping. And this doesn't mean, of course, that the rumor mill at MVUU doesn't get ramped up from time to time. You laugh. Because you know the truth. And that's fine. We're in a stressed out situation a little bit. We've been in diaspora for 2+ years now. We're all really hoping for a home. And there's a lot to do around here because this community is always punched above its weight class. And so anxiety and stress have the opportunity to take root, and when they do, that's when rumors can start to fly or even crawl. And I would just say that with information in this community, particularly about the building search, because that tends to be where the rumors get going recently. When we have a new building, we'll spread rumors about something else. But right now we're spreading them about the building from time to time. And when that happens, what I would ask you, when you hear something about the building, before you form an opinion that you're going to adopt as your own, I would just encourage you to talk directly with somebody on the PMT or maybe the board. That's the project management team. And that's going to help those rumors from taking on a larger life than they're due. So integrity, we choose courage over comfort. We choose what's right over what's fast or easy. And this is another thing that I think MVUU does really well. Courage over comfort. This is not a risk-averse congregation, and I'm very grateful for that. We are not afraid of change, or maybe we are, but we don't let that daunt us. We took a massive leap of faith, calculated as it was, a leap of faith nonetheless, in leaving our old home and moving into the wilderness where, of course, it's all the more important to know that we're not alone, right? That's from into the woods. And here we are in the woods. and we're not alone. We have each other, and that allows us to be risk takers. And I remember actually, I was in a bad mood maybe 2 months ago, and I was thinking that we weren't really stepping up into what we could be as a congregation, and particularly in justice areas. And right around that time, the call came for this congregation to step up and in to helping people seeking asylum in this country. And you guys destroyed a sermon that I was about to give. Because you stepped up so thoroughly. You chose courage over comfort. So I want to celebrate our community's capacity to do that. It's very inspiring. Although it does create its own anxieties, right? Non-judgment. I can ask for what I need, and you could ask for what you need, and we could talk about how we feel without judgment. And generosity. These two seem linked again to me, where generosity is the extension of the most generous interpretation possible to the intentions, words, and actions of others. So here's, with these two, I feel like a place where we could probably do a little bit better as a community, as a minister. Normally we're really good at this, but we are in year 2 of our search, and that creates some stress, and it creates some burnout. That's the weirdness that we talked about years ago, by the way. Now we are living in the weird. We're no longer girding for it. We are in it. And when you are stressed, when you're in the weird, when you're in the woods, it's super easy to be both judgmental and ungenerous. Generosity and non-judgment are safeguarded somewhat by practicing direct communication, which we have in our covenant. And I mean practicing direct communication very literally. Because the more you do it, the better you get at doing it. And the less you do it, the less adept or comfortable you will be. So it's very important that we practice this part of our covenant, direct communication with one another, direct and compassionate communication with generosity and non-judgment, that we can hear the needs of one another and talk about and hear about how we feel without judgment. And I think we're learning how to do this. There's a arc and a rhythm to our time in the woods, and I feel like right now we have been tested on this account, and we've come through a little bit scraped, but we have come through. And from it, we are learning the value of direct communication, of generous, non-judgmental, direct, compassionate communication. This is a marvelous time to be in this congregation, because it is a time when the words that we say, the intentions that we set, are put to the test. And we have this amazing opportunity to live into them when they actually really matter. All of this, I think, requires a kind of vulnerability. Maybe not requires a vulnerability, it results in vulnerability. The question is, will we step into that vulnerability intentionally or otherwise? Vulnerability is both a requirement and a product of generosity and non-judgment and integrity, where we step out of our comfort zone. We step into risk, and we're really good at risk, as I said, but again, risk demands vulnerability, and with the adrenal rush of risk, with the vote to leave and look for a new home, we often overlook the subsequent demands and turn to vulnerability. But I want to argue that vulnerability is a sweet spot. It is the place when you are vulnerable and vulnerable with one another. That is the spot. And vulnerable with the world and all your relations. That is the place that inspires connection, that engenders the sense of connection. Invulnerability precludes connection and invites habits of domination. If you don't feel vulnerable, you might want to check yourself. A reasonable amount of vulnerability is a sign that you're doing church right. Especially if you step into that vulnerability with generosity and non-judgment. And if you do not feel vulnerable here, may I suggest that you plug into an activity where that is going to be more possible. And if you know someone who is in a vulnerable position here, either because they bring that vulnerability with them from their life or because their work here makes them vulnerable, puts them on the line in some way or another, either within or outside of our congregation, well, what an opportunity for you to be generous and non-judgmental with that person. So this is braving, and I do not say that braving is easy. I do say that it is a way to improve your life and the life of our congregation, which, as you have heard today, is already so rich. I also say that braving helps us to maintain our covenant and to be vulnerable with one another. Now, vulnerability is not easy either, I understand that, and just as we practice our values and our covenant, we can also actually practice being vulnerable, and we're going to do this in a matter of moments. And we should practice this, by the way, because what grows out of people coming together in a vulnerable, generous, non-judgmental space is, as you have seen today, amazing. And don't you know, we have the opportunity to see how this works right now. And Twin Feathers is going to help me. The one thing that I ask you to do is, much like with the thunderstorm, I ask you to be vulnerable and participate.
So on that note, would you like to share with us your experience of what I presented yesterday?
So yesterday, Twin Feathers did this, what she's about to do for us, this amazing thing where she's going to play us some music and invite us to make a noise as we do so, a joyful noise. And this could be anything. You might harmonize. You might catch a tune and start singing the tune. Yesterday, this is right on the edge of my own vulnerability, so I wasn't going to do it with great exuberance, but I was going to do it, and then I was going to make you do it. So I just simply would, every now and then, make a deep sort of guttural like that. So it could be anything from that to a harmony, and I invite you to play.
Thanks, Ron. So I'm going to make some sounds in my own vulnerability. I don't know what's going to come out. I've been doing this for a couple of years. I was introduced to this form of sounding in Israel with a friend who took me and a small group of women to sacred feminine sites, and this is what we did, just intuitively sounding from a place of our deep connection to all that is. So from that place, this isn't a place of judgment. This is a place of just responding to the sounds that you're hearing and what you're feeling. As I sing, feel free to make a sound if your being encourages you Don't worry about who's sitting next to you. We all sing happy birthday, right? We all laid hands on your parishioner for well-being and sending him off. And so we can do that. This is for you to maybe stretch just a little bit, because we got to get out of our comfort zones to really enjoy life. So before I get started, I'm hearing to just relax and imagine that you have deep roots going down into the earth through the end of your spine, your coccyx. There's a line going straight to the center of the earth, to that beautiful molten center of our mother. And imagine that there's a hatch there that you're going to open. You will not be burned. You're going to open that hatch, that magnetic hatch, so that you can feel the magnetism of that earth through your being, and just feel the pull of Mother as we journey together. And if your being wants to make a sound, please do, and don't be surprised at what comes. Come on back. Thank you.